Measuring results. So most people refer to these things, these measuring criteria or outcomes as KPIs, key performance indicators. For some industries, they're natural. Most industries have some kind of close rate that would be a KPI. Out of 100 opportunities we have to sell our services, how many times we get yes? And that could vary. Some industries, 30% to 40% is good. In others, over 90% is good. And so that varies. So it's important to find out for my industry, what is normal, what is good, what is our goal. Those are things to figure out with KPIs. Not all KPIs are that kind of well known in the industry. Sometimes you have to create your own. So a great example is I have a client who owns a roofing company, and part of their procedure for maintaining good communication with their clients throughout a multi-day project, for example, is reaching out and letting them know, here's where we are at a prescribed rate, whether it's daily or 3 times a week or whatever it is. And so they may find out that there needs to be 60 outreach communications to people in a week to let them know like where we at with their project. And they were struggling trying to figure out, well, what's a KPI for that? Well, if the answer is we have, or if we have 60 times we need to be reaching out to folks, what would be an acceptable level to call ourselves successful at this? Is it 55? Is it 58? Is it 60? And so then once we figured that out, the KPI became very simple. We're just going to say we have X amount of times a week we're supposed to reach out. Here's what the acceptable rate is. Let's say it's 95%. And so we would determine that 95% would be 57 times out of 60. We would measure. Here's how many times we should have reached out this week, and here's how many times we actually did. Did we hit our objective or not? And that would be a way you can develop a KPI or a key performance indicator for something that is not just every company operates this way. Not every roofing company has an expectation of that level of communication, but for them it's critical. It's one of the key reasons people call them instead of somebody else. So sometimes we'll have these key performance indicators that are kind of just known in the industry, and sometimes we have to make our own. One of the other things that's really important with KPIs, well, there's a few things. In my experience, one of the things that's been very clear is the level of consistency when posting KPIs is critical. So I believe that employees will kind of gauge our interest in a topic to tell them how much they should care. So for example, one of the things you'll see in any business, large or small, that is a common problem until we learn how to overcome this is we had the problem last week or last month. We come in both barrels blazing, and we're going to solve this problem. And we develop KPIs, and we write procedures, and we do all these things to make sure this doesn't happen again. And then 6 weeks later, it's like it never happened. And so what happens is we have all this energy and enthusiasm about something. We don't decide who's in charge of measuring the KPIs, posting the KPIs so that we can see how our progress is. And pretty soon we're on to the next thing, and we don't worry about that thing anymore. And now we're trying to solve a completely different problem. So one of the key things with KPIs has got to be consistency. If we demonstrate that we're going to be really gung-ho about this thing for 2 or 3 weeks, and then we're never going to talk about it again, well, guess what our employees are going to do? They're not going to have a higher level of enthusiasm or commitment than we are. That's not how it works. So if we want them to have a high level of enthusiasm and commitment about solving this problem, one of the ways we can demonstrate that is by consistently publishing the KPIs, whether it's 9 o'clock every Monday morning, or whether it's Wednesday by noon, or whatever it is. Pick a time that we're going to publish this information and be consistent. Second thing I would say is post these things in a public space. It's really interesting to watch employees, depending on their personality style, when they have these KPIs posted in a public place. Some are going to, especially if it's performance related, like sales or revenue or some kind of performance thing, some people will rush over and they can't wait to go see it. As soon as it's posted there, they're over there seeing, where am I on the board here? Am I number 3 or am I number 27? They want to know that stuff. Other folks will wait until they think nobody's looking, and they'll go over real quick and look. But generally speaking, people will go find that information. And there's a different context of having it posted in a public space like that than sending an email with an Excel spreadsheet every Monday at 9 a.m. that says, here's how we did. Now, I'm not saying you can't get decent performance through that email. What I am saying is, based on my experience, having things that really matter. So you couldn't have 43 things published in the space, but your top 3 to 7 things that really matter, having those KPIs posted in a public space where people can come see them and know the company cares about this enough to take up this space with that. This really matters to the company. Those kinds of things will get more enthusiasm and more commitment and more performance or higher performance from employees than just sending an email or just verbally telling people randomly, here's how we're doing with this. So a regular routine of when we have the information, a conspicuous place to post the information where it's public. Those are things that are really helpful.